Welcome to the Be Kind podcast with your host, Joe Kirkner, presented by the Animal Advocates of South Central Pennsylvania.
Welcome, everybody, to the Be Kind podcast. I'm Joe from the Animal Advocates of South Central PA, joined by John, also
Hello.
from the Animal Advocates, and Gina from Huckleberry Trails. And we
Hi
are
there.
Hello, everyone. And as a quick reminder, we are part of the Animal Advocates mission to create a more compassionate world for all living creatures, whether those creatures are from 2020, 2021, or any other year. Happy New Year, everyone. They all deserve to be loved, and we're making a world where they are loved. And if you ever have any questions, send us email at bekindpodcast@gmail.com. Like us wherever podcasts are sold, and subscribe and share with all your friends. So as I said, here with Gina and John, here to talk about farmed animals and all that good stuff. Hi, Gina.
Hi there. How are you?
We're both pretty good.
My answer when people ask me that nowadays is acceptable.
Yeah.
So, Gina, would you mind introducing yourself and telling the listeners a little bit about what takes up most of your time and what you're passionate about?
So my name is Gina Beck. I am the founder of Huckleberry Trails Animal Sanctuary. And prior to that, in my former life, I was in the PA National Guard. And I also worked at the U.S. Army War College as their sexual assault response coordinator. And what takes up most of my time now is the sanctuary, of course. Although I have what would probably be considered not many animals compared to other sanctuaries. I have 31, and they take up a good bit of time. So I'm on 20 acres out here in Shermansdale, and they're everything. I mean, even when they're not taking up time, you know, you're always thinking about them because they're out here and they depend on you for every little thing that they need. So most of my time is, you know, working things at the sanctuary or just trying the best I can to keep up with, you know, my indoor animals and my, you know, and the house. And that's about it. On the few occasions that I get to go out and enjoy myself, I don't know where I was going with that, but occasionally I do get to go out, you know, and bowl or go to dinner or something like that. But most of my time is spent here, which I'm very good with.
You should just adopt a bunch of sea monkeys, and that will triple the amount of animals you have on your sanctuary.
That's wonderful. That's a wonderful idea.
So actually, since we were just talking about how you're always thinking about your animals, I was just thinking, we just had a big snowstorm. Like, how did they react to that? Like, because you have goats and stuff. Like, were they running around going crazy in the snow, or are they kind of just like chilling?
No, you know, different animals react differently. I have 2 potbelly pigs. They will not come out.
Mm-hmm.
I have goats. They also do not like to come out in the snow.
Okay.
Some of them ventured out more than I would have thought, but mostly they are not a fan of snow or rain. The cows don't mind it. The sheep don't mind it. The chickens are undercover, so they were well protected from it. But it was a lot of work, that snowstorm, because knowing that the goats and the pigs wouldn't come out, you know, we shoveled paths for them so that they could at least come out, get some sunshine, you know, not just be crammed in a building for 3 days. You know, you just sort of modify what you do when you have weather like that. Mm-hmm. Just to make it as comfortable as you can for the animals.
Right.
Well, I have so many questions, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. Could you answer the stereotypical, what is your vegan journey, and how did you find yourself starting a farmed animal sanctuary?
Today is my 5-year anniversary for going vegetarian. Yeah. So my journey started in 2015. I was diagnosed with something called Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is where your own immune system attacks your nervous system.
Ooh.
And so at my worst, I was completely paralyzed. I went from one day being fine to the next day just not being able to move, not being able to talk, not being able to focus my eyes on anybody. And so from that recovery, which involved a lot of medications and a lot of rehab, I just started sort of watching documentaries and doing research on medications, because at some point when you're taking so many different medications, you start to wonder whether the way you're feeling is because of your illness or because of the side effects of the medications.
Right.
And so my journey began with trying to sort of come off of those medications, or at least not have to take as many as I was, or as many milligrams as I was. And so that was how my vegan journey started. Prior to becoming that ill, never had it crossed my mind. I wish it had, but that was what really started it, me getting sick. And I originally did it for health. Well, while watching those documentaries, I'm sure you're familiar with Netflix and how after you watch something, it sort of suggests that you watch other things that are related. You know, I watch What the Health and different things like that. And all of a sudden I'm watching documentaries on factory farming.
Right.
And so that was a whole other side and other reason for me to do what I did.
Wow.
Like I said, originally it was for health, but once you start learning about factory farming and what these animals go through, you sort of can't turn your back against that either. Then it just became for both. And then you sort of, or for me anyway, you know, it becomes about, you know, the planet as well, because you just continue to educate yourself.
Right.
But how I started the animal sanctuary was part of my recovery. And after I learned about factory farming, was to find an animal sanctuary and to volunteer. And so I ended up finding a sanctuary that's a little bit south of Lancaster called Chenoa Manor.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with them.
I don't think, you're not familiar with them?
No.
Yeah, they aren't real big on marketing, and I don't even know how. I think I Googled them and that's how I found them. But had I not done that, I still have never seen their name come up in sort of the sanctuary circles. And that was before Lancaster Farm Sanctuary was open.
Oh, wow.
So I went to Chenoa and volunteered there for a summer, and it was just very therapeutic for me to be around the farm animals. And so I just decided that that's what I wanted to do. I was married at the time. I asked my husband what he thought. You know, I just wanted 5 acres. You know, just 5 acres, rescue a few animals. And that was sort of where I began.
That's amazing. That's an incredible story.
Yeah, that is quite an adventure. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, sure.
Tell us a little bit more about your animals, because you said you had 30 plus animals. Like, what do you have exactly?
So I have 3 cows, and I have the 2 potbellies. I have several sheep. I have more goats than anything. I kept telling people that I had 16 goats, but yesterday I recounted and I have 18.
Oh.
So I sort of lost track somewhere on how many goats I had. But it was funny because as I went through all of the paperwork to get the 501c3. And of course, you know, we looked for land. But during all that time when I didn't have animals, I was sort of networking. I found you guys through someone. And you guys actually on your Facebook page, you're sort of responsible for all my goats.
Oh.
Because through your Facebook page, I found the big goat rescue in York.
Ah.
And so I went down just to help transport some goats to other homes because I wasn't open yet. And, Grace with Animal Rescue Inc., she was sort of the lead on that. And she had so many that she still needed to find homes for. By the time I opened, I was able to help her and take some of them from her. So yeah, that's where my first animals were really from that goat rescue.
And you actually have some celebrities, don't you?
Some might say Pongo's a celebrity.
Is Pongo the goat that went viral with the picture of your dad?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So my dad was Give Local York, this big thing that happens, fundraising thing, and we had an art show going on, and Pongo was just kind of there to like represent animals, and my dad was holding this amazing baby goat. It wasn't even, how old was Pongo at the time? Like,
Oh gosh, he was probably only a couple months.
Yeah,
maybe 3 months.
He was just a baby, but like the picture's so amazing because they're both making the same face, and it's just it's incredible. And I posted it up on Reddit, and it went viral on there. And then Bored Panda, which is like this international magazine like website thing, they reached out to me and they're like, "Hey, can we like do an interview with you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And it blew up, and it was amazing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Something that I think would be helpful for the listeners to hear is that I think we all understand the concept of a farmed animal sanctuary, but I think hearing about more the specifics behind the lives of these animals and how it's different from the alternative of the animal agriculture. We all know animal agriculture is terrible with neglect, abuse, whole 9 yards, though I don't know a whole lot about the day-to-day life of an animal on a farmed animal sanctuary. So could you tell us a little bit about what that entails and how it really is a much more enriching and nurturing experience for these creatures?
Yeah, I mean, it all starts when I think back to some of the animals that I have. Even going to the goats, which we were just talking about. We went there and they were in just this small little area, not a blade of grass in it. There were 60 some goats in there. Now, a lot of the females were pregnant at that time, but there were 60 some goats in just this small little area. They all have the numbers in their ears. They're getting kicked around by the farmer, and they're just not loved. They're there for a whole different purpose, which is to provide money to them and to be used as food. And so they don't care for them like they're cared for on a sanctuary. So when all of those goats left and Grace is rooting through them and she's taking them to the vet and she's taking stool samples, they all were riddled with, lice and worms and parasites, and they were so sick. But the farmer's not going to put money into caring for the animal because that's going to take money out of the profits. And like I said, they just don't care about the animal's welfare. Mm-hmm. Where, when they come to an animal sanctuary, or even, some of them are in backyard sanctuaries that are not 501c3s per se, but they are getting top-notch care in the backyard of someone's home who provides them with, the love and care that they need. It's just a whole different world for them. And by we, I mean sanctuaries, backyard sanctuaries, people who really care about them, we worry about everything. So if something doesn't look right one day, especially when you first get them, you're panicking like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Let me take them to the vet. I mean, you do that. I do that still anyway, but it's just a whole different viewpoint than what they feel like on a farm. Mm-hmm. They would not get vet care. They just absolutely would. I shouldn't say that about all farms or all farmers that, they go around kicking animals. Right. But certainly the end state is that they get to live out their entire natural life in a sanctuary or a home that's really caring for them. They aren't, their life isn't being cut off at just, 5% of what it should be. Pigs, for instance, they're 6 months and they're, being slaughtered. Well, their natural lifespan is, 18 years. Cows, 18 months on a beef farm. Their natural lifespan is 20 some years, some 30 years. Yeah. So we just commit to taking animals and taking care of animals for the rest of their natural life. And hopefully that's a very long life.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully.
You mentioned you're a 501c3, and for those not in the lingo or the know, that means Huckleberry Trails is a nonprofit organization, so if you donate money to them, it's tax deductible and all that fun stuff.
Right.
Which leads into my next question, which is how do you financially support all this work? I'd imagine there's a whole lot of resources and expenses related to caring for these non-human animals.
There is. I am very lucky because when I got sick in the military, I had 22 years, which meant that I was eligible for a retirement. And also in my civilian capacity, I had just gone over the 10-year mark, which meant that I was also eligible for a retirement from them too. Not a full retirement per se, but enough that every little bit helps when you're doing something like this.
Next question relates more to the activism side of things. How do you use is a terrible word. How do you collaborate with your non-human animals to participate in vegan activism?
Mostly, I guess, through, probably mostly through, Instagram or Facebook, just, telling their stories. I have not done public tours yet. I haven't done many events. Most of my activism is through messages and through stories that I post on Facebook and Instagram. And right now we are participating in Veganuary. So, I posted about that a couple days ago, but that for the most part, it's just telling their stories.
Stories are sticky. Fundraising 101.
Yeah. And I think they deserve to be heard. I mean, I think about Helen and, I have a blind cow and she is, she's a year and a half old and you hate that she's blind, but being blind saved her from the dairy industry. So, people need to know that story that had she not been blind, she would be pumping out babies every year, losing those babies every year, and then be slaughtered after she could no longer produce milk, for humans. So I'm thankful every day that whatever brought these animals here, whatever happened in their life before here, I'm just glad they're here. And that goes for any sanctuary, whatever terrible story comes before their life at a sanctuary, as sorry as I am about those stories, I'm so happy for whatever brought them to a loving place.
And it really is a loving place. Like I've been there and I see how much you care about those animals, and it's really great what you're doing. Seriously.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I personally think it's just amazing that you do this, and I respect it so much, and I'm just in awe that individuals like you are able to coordinate these operations and have the discipline and structure in place to make sure that these animals have loving homes. And I know something I would struggle with if I was in your situation would be hearing about the millions, billions, untold numbers of animals dying every day for our consumption, and then coming home and seeing those animals in my house remind me constantly of that suffering. Because when you see Honey, who's your cow, that's just one cow, and then that's millions of others out there just like her who are dying, and I would just be emotionally distraught if I was in that situation. So how do you cope with that or handle those complex, overwhelming emotions?
I would have to say that the hardest part of that for me was my first year. It's easy to turn, for me, it's actually, I'm sort of in my own little world up here, and it's all consuming up here. And so for me, it seemed the hardest to deal with that when I was just learning about it. When I was just finding out about factory farming and how many billions of animals are killed every year and how many millions every day. And, that's when you start to notice everything that you never noticed before. You notice every single slaughter truck that goes by. You notice every single chicken house that you go by. You notice every farm, dairy farm, other farm. It was very difficult for last year when I was first learning about all of this stuff that I never heard before. Now, I would say I almost feel like I sort of it out. I don't watch a lot of things. I mean, I advocate and I try to get others to make that connection. But I feel like for me, in terms of keeping myself healthy, that I have to understand that I can only do so much. And so I can't allow myself to get overwhelmed by that, because I have so many other things to take care of that I have to show up for every single day. So I have to be thankful for the ones that we have and hope to reach people by sending messages out there. That's sort of how I cope.
Giving people the opportunity to hear those stories, to see these animals, to interact with them, I think really is a game changer a lot of times. The first time I saw a cow in the flesh in a situation where it just got to live its life, it blew my mind. And now every time I drive by a farm and see cows lying around in the field, it breaks my heart to see that. And
yeah.
People like you are the reason why I think eventually the world will come around by putting animals in contexts that aren't just for our use and exploitation. So again, can't say enough. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. It's funny that you say, I'm just thinking now, I have a neighbor right across the street who just put about 20 calves over there. And it breaks my heart every time I see them, because, I know they're only there for 18 months and they are the cutest little things. And that has probably been the hardest thing I've dealt with for a long time, because I can't not see that. My dog goes over there and, he's making friends with all of these little calves. And yeah, it's heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. It is heartbreaking, because they are no different. I mean, my cows, they love to be brushed. They love for me to scratch their face. Leo will put his mouth, against my cheek. I mean, there is just no difference, but it's so hidden from people what happens. And, people just don't have cows as pets, so they just don't see it that way. Yeah. But that's the way it is. They're no different.
Yeah. So you mentioned your neighbors. Actually, I have a question about that. They know? You probably know what I'm going to ask. Do they know what you're doing, and how do they react? How do they react to that?
There is. We're not close.
I can imagine.
There's just there's not a whole lot more I could say about that. We are cordial, mm-hmm. but they know what I do, and now I know what they do. It's new for them. They mm-hmm. just brought them over there like a month ago.
Oh, wow.
I can't ignore them in the hopes of not becoming close to them, mm-hmm. Because I know one day I'm going to go out there and they won't be there anymore. But gosh, they're just, they deserve to be they deserve for someone to show them that they're worth something.
Yeah.
Well, let's end this on a happier note.
Dang it.
I know.
Gina, could you tell us a happy story, something that really sticks out in your mind that really reinforces why you put all this time, effort, energy, and resources into what you do?
Oh my gosh. Yes, that's easy. I mean, I sort of said, when the animals come from rescue, they are completely different than who they are now. So the potbelly pigs, for instance, one of those pigs, it took 6 months to get that pig to roll over and let me give him a belly rub. But the motivation and it's so nice seeing them grow into who they really should be. So, they might come here scared. They might come here not trusting you. They might come here, those calves, I'm still working on being able to give them a treat. As soon as I reach my hand out, they sort of run. And that's typical when they're, when they're not touched and they're not, shown any kind of compassion. But, that happens when they come here. It takes a long time to earn their trust, because, and some of them, you don't know where they come from. You don't know their stories. You know they're not good, but you don't know how bad.
Yeah.
And so you just keep working every day to try to get them to trust you and to understand that you're there for them. And that's the give back. That's the reward for doing all of it, is just to see them bond with other animals and become exactly who they're meant to become. And that's priceless. It's priceless to see that.
Definitely sounds like it's worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I can't think of any better note to end it on than that. But if anyone wants to get a hold of you or learn more about what you do, how can they find you?
They could find, I have, I'm on Facebook and I am on Instagram under Huckleberry Trails Animal Sanctuary, and they could message me or.
We'll put links to both those in the show notes.
And we'll put in the article from Board Panda about Pongo.
Yes.
Get you a few more views on that viral.
Right.
That is a priceless picture,
I
too.
know,
That's great. And it's funny. Pongo was, he's such a great, they're all great goats, but Pongo is, I was listening to my audiobook today, and I had it on my phone speaker because I didn't have my earbuds in, and he was following me around. I was laughing at him today because he was following me around like he was listening to the story and he didn't want to miss anything. It was he's such a handsome guy. I love him. I'll love reading that story again.
Aw.
Yeah, well, thank you so much again, Gina, for taking time out. I'm sure it was been a busy day for you, and I hope you had a good time on the podcast. I hope your animals have a great time as well. Hopefully, as things start to be a little less snowy and rainy.
Right. Yes. Thank you guys so much for what you do.
Oh, and thank you for what you do. You're amazing. Seriously.
Oh, thank you.
We love you. And
Thank you.
Happy
I
New
love
Year.
you guys. Happy New Year to you guys, too.
Yeah.
And Happy New Year to all you listeners out there. If you want to wish us or Gene or anyone a Happy New Year, you can email us at bekindpodcast@gmail.com. Oh, thanks again for listening, and bye, everyone.
Bye.
So long.
Thank you for listening to the Be Kind podcast, presented by the Animal